So many mountain ranges in the US are beloved by hikers. The Rockies, the Sierra Nevadas, the Cascades. But there are others that we don't hear about all that often. Take the White Mountain Range in New Hampshire, which has some of the most difficult hiking in the country. There are stretches of exposed terrain, steeply graded trails, brutally strong winds, and rapidly changing conditions. Adventuring there in the winter months provides extra challenges. Thick snow blankets the trails, impacting navigation and visibility, and the region is famous for having some of the world's worst weather. There are 48 peaks in the White Mountains that are over 4,000 feet tall, and it's become a tradition among New England hikers to summit all of them. In 2021, adventurer Mardi Fuller became the first Black person to hike every 4,000-footer in the winter. She hits the trails all year long, but it's the cold season that really gets her blood pumping. I'm Shelby Stanger, and this is Wild Ideas Worth Living, an REI Co-op Studios production presented by Capital One and the REI Co-op MasterCard. Mardi Fuller, welcome to Wild Ideas Worth Living. You have truly lived some of the wildest ideas we've heard of on this podcast.
Thank you, Shelby. It's so wonderful to be here.
Your wild idea was hiking all 48 of New Hampshire's 4,000-foot peaks, which is an incredible goal. I'm curious how you got into hiking and adventure as a kid.
I grew up in New York, not in the city, but just in one of the suburbs just north of the city in Westchester County. And I always just loved nature. I loved playing outside. My parents are immigrants from Jamaica, and they both grew up in rural environments, loving the outdoors. And so they raised my brother and I really loving the outdoors in a different way than Americans tend to take on the outdoors, meaning in a much more organic way, like going for walks, learning the names of birds and trees, visiting parks. Those are things that Americans do too, but the difference really came when I went to high school and college and I got kind of inculcated into outdoor culture where you would need to buy a bunch of gear so that you could take a walk in the woods or so you could sleep outside. And my parents were like, why are you spending $1,000 to sleep outside? We're very confused right now. So one important thing about how I was raised and how it differs from an American experience is that because my parents are Jamaican and grew up in a Black country where they could feel belonging to nature and not face the exclusions that Black Americans face in the US, it was just so much more natural for them to invite me into that. And yes, they experienced American racism and learned about how it works here, but they still had that initial innate bonding with nature that made it more possible for me to experience that without friction. And so that's a really important part of my nature connection as a kid and why I kind of immersed myself in the outdoors. And then in college, I did a 4-night or so backpacking trip in the Green Mountains in Vermont. And it was pretty transformative. I knew, as a first year student, you're given this long list of orientation options. And I was backpacking, always wanted to do it. I haven't had an opportunity before. I had been working as a lifeguard. And so I literally bought everything out of the LL Bean catalog. This was 1997. You could send a check in an envelope to LL Bean. So anyway, I remember all of this. Got the gear. We went on this trip and it was just really special. I mostly remember connecting with the people. It was really transformative and kind of set me on a path to want to explore more.
I love it. Okay, so somehow along the lines, you got some idea to hike all of 48 of New Hampshire's 4,000-foot peaks.
Actually, the first time I heard about the White Mountains was on that Green Mountain trip, where a couple of the other participants were like, yeah, these mountains are beautiful and pretty hard, but the White Mountains, Wait till you try those. They're brutal. They're so hard. And so I got in my mind like, oh, I got to see these. I got to check these out.
Mardi first hiked in the White Mountains in 2003, and she was hooked. From there, she tackled as many peaks as she could. After a couple of years of climbing mostly in spring, summer, and fall, Mardi began bundling up and hiking in the winter too. What originally hooked you into hiking in the winter?
I think I should preface it by saying that I did already love winter. And I think that my love of winter came from growing up in New York and having snow days, and how when you have a snow day, like there's just this excitement that builds, you know, a week ahead of time. You see the forecast, you get excited, like maybe it's going to snow enough to close school, and then you get the robocall, and then it's beautiful out the next day, and you can go sledding. You can meet up with all your friends because everyone's free. You have snowball fights. You have hot cocoa when you come back inside. Like, it's just this like core memory, like experience that is just precious to me in my memory of childhood. And so I loved hiking, and I took a winter hiking program, and they teach you about mountain safety. And so when I went on these winter hikes, it was from this place of enjoying winter, but you quickly discover as you hike that you're staying warmer than you would think you would, because when you're moving, especially when you're moving uphill, your body generates a lot of heat. You're actually staying very comfortably warm within 20 minutes of walking or less, really down to like 0 degrees, not even joking. It's just when you stop where you will get cold very quickly. And if you have moisture on your body due to sweating, that could freeze up and accelerate your coldness. So it's a beautiful way to enjoy the winter. It is just gorgeous. You feel like you've been teleported to a far away place as soon as you get on the trail about a mile. There's just so much snow. The higher you hike up into the mountains, there's more snow. It's like this fairy tale land. There's few people. There's no bugs. Yeah, there are just so many reasons to give it a try.
Okay, but when did you get this wild idea? You know, you could have just hiked one, but you're like, I'm going to hike all 48 of New Hampshire's 4,000-foot peaks, but in winter.
It's interesting because hiking all 48 mountains at any time of year is kind of a thing. It's like a game that hikers in the Northeast play. So it's like a common thing. You hear about that right away. You start hiking and people say, oh, you're going to hike all 48? And, you know, some people like me are like, oh, yeah, okay. Yes, I'm going to do that. So I first hiked all 48 in spring, summer, fall, just any time within like those 3 seasons. I did that first, finished it in 2008. And by that time, I had already hiked some winter peaks, but I wasn't thinking about hiking all of them. I really was more just enjoying winter hiking, going on hikes that other friends were suggesting. And then years later, I realized 2 things. One, I was getting close to hiking them all, so I might as well do it. And then second of all, there were no other Black people who had done it. And I had to ask around. There's kind of a historian named Steve Smith in New Hampshire. I asked him and looked around in places where records are held. Couldn't find any other Black person who had finished them in winter. So I kind of just said to myself, well, it's going to be me then. I didn't need to finish the list until I realized that.
"15 years after her first hike in the White Mountains, Mardi realized that she had already climbed most of the 4,000 footers in winter. There were only 10 left to summit, but the ones that remained were the most difficult technical mountains, including Mount Adams and the Bonds Traverse. Did it scare you when you said this out loud, like, hey, I'm going to do this?
It did, because there are some hikes that are scary. Being out there in the winter is intimidating. I only hike when conditions are good. There are some people who will take more risks and go out there when conditions are bad. I don't recommend it. People die out there. So I wait till the weather looks good, conditions, wind, weather, precipitation, but also just the state of the trails. There are some people who make it the near sole focus of their life to do it quickly, and they'll do it in like a season. It means they're hiking all the time. So that can be done, and that was not me. I didn't have the ability to do that. I had to work and I had other things, not just work, that I had to be thinking about. But then also I don't think my joints could sustain that. I needed more breaks and recovery in between. So there are some people who do this aggressively and make it like a goal to do it in the shortest amount of time or whatnot. That was not the vibe I was on. I was really fitting this into my life, prioritizing it, but fitting it into a life, with work and family and other responsibilities and commitments.
We talk a lot on this show about the training and gear you need to go after a wild idea. With the REI Co-op MasterCard, everyday purchases can support your wild ideas and turn them into limitless possibilities. Trail miles, summit views, and that family camping trip you plan to take this summer. Here's how it works. Card members earn 5% in card rewards on every purchase at REI and 1.5% on everything else. Groceries, gas, your morning coffee, it all adds up. And the best part, you can redeem card rewards as soon as you earn them. That means grabbing those new trail runners you've been eyeing and keeping more cash in your pocket. It's quick and easy to see if you're pre-approved. To learn more about the REI Co-op MasterCard program, go to rei.com/MasterCard-podcast. That's rei.com/MasterCard-podcast. Terms apply. Whether you're a hiker or a trail runner, you know that no two trails feel the same. Some involve a rocky climb with switchbacks, and others are a smooth path through a forest. That's why REI Co-op has shoes built for every turn, every surface, and every mile. You'll find the latest footwear from top running brands like the new Ultra Timp 6 and the Brooks Ghost Trail, plus clothing and gear from Rabbit, Swiftland, REI Co-op, and more. REI has you covered this season, so skip scrolling through endless gear reviews and guessing which shoe is right for you. Stop by your local REI to get personally fitted or shop rei.com. REI Co-op. Run every trail. In 2018, Mardi Fuller was just 10 peaks away from becoming the first Black person to hike all 48 4,000 footers in winter. Reaching the top of every peak requires a total of 300 miles of hiking and at least 100,000 feet of elevation gain. Summiting them in winter requires extra precautions, and Mardi had to make sure she was prepared. Once you decided to go all in and do this, what was step one? Or you kind of backed into it. You'd already done a couple. But then when you were like, I'm going to do the rest, and you got really serious, like, how did you logistically figure this out?
Yeah. So there are just a lot of different considerations. If you're doing this hiking challenge, it's not going to be like 48 hikes. Some of the peaks you may do 2 or 3 in one hike. But then also you're going to be turned away several times because of conditions or because of how you're feeling or someone in your group's feeling. And there are some mountains that I tried a couple times before I was able to summit. Mount Washington and the Northern Presidentials are the hardest to be able to successfully summit because conditions are so unpredictable. The highest wind speed in the world was once recorded on Mount Washington. I think 213 miles per hour was the record for a period of time. So the winds can regularly be between 50 and 80 miles an hour. And several times a season, they're going to be higher than that, like in the hundreds. So you really have to have a like technical approach to checking the weather forecast.
Yeah. What safety precautions did you have to take?
So the safety precautions that I had to have in mind were really being prepared to be in the elements. Like if you're hiking in the winter, you need to essentially be prepared to spend a night out if something happens. If you get injured, or maybe a member of your party gets injured, or if you happen to get lost. So, you want to have a backpack that has potentially a bivy sack, maybe a sleeping bag, a warm jacket for standing on the summit, eating, taking a break, or if you're hurt or someone's hurt and maybe you need to do a gear repair. You've got to have all the appropriate gear for managing the terrain, crampons and mountaineering boots if it's above tree line, regular hiking boots and micro spikes usually if it's below, and snowshoes for breaking trail if you need to do that. And you have to have prepared by like researching the state of the trails. You have to read a lot of message boards and kind of hold everyone's comments with a grain of salt while trying to also deduce like what's valuable from like crowdsourced information. And then reading the weather reports, understanding the weather conditions. You also have to prepare by maybe having a conversation with your group, having the same expectations, agreeing what would determine that you're going to turn around, because you don't want to be surprised by someone's risk tolerance. Sometimes folks can be very focused on peak bagging or getting a summit. There have been times that I've hiked and I've been like 100 yards from the summit, but my hiking partners and I have said we don't feel that it's safe to go further because we're not sure that we would know where we are like once we're there, because the conditions are so bad. The winds are strong. There's a whiteout happening because the wind is blowing up snow, or it's actually snowing and the wind is blowing the snow around. You might be in a situation where it's like foggy and you're above tree line and you're looking at cairns to know the direction you're going in. And if the visibility is decreasing and you can't see the next cairn, then you're essentially stuck because you're in this super rocky terrain and you could wander down to a cliff's edge without visibility. So you just have to always be making good decisions.
In order to stay safe on these trails, Mardi almost always took at least one other person with her. Over the years, she's developed a healthy community of fellow outdoor adventurers who are more than happy to share their skills and resources. Navigation is challenging in winter, so it was always helpful when Mardi's group could double-check each other's work. Some friends even had climbing expertise and equipment to assist with descending steep inclines. Finally, in 2021, Mardi completed her final winter peaks, Mount Adams and Mount Madison.
What did you learn about yourself as you went along this journey? I mean, it started when you were young up until your 40s.
I really do feel like putting myself into the elements in these ways has allowed me to face, hardship and uncertainty in my own life. It's made me, I think, more ready to embrace change. It's helped me even just like as a traveler when unexpected things happen or you're in a situation that you didn't plan for is out of your control. I just feel more, I feel confident that I'll get through it, I'll manage it. And I'm, able to kind of get to a place of peace more easily. Just the pride that I have in myself for like being able to do hard things has really like been impactful for me. Growing up, I was a swimmer. I ran kind of track, but I was never good at like hand-eye coordination sports. And so I always had a little bit of like shame around performing physically. So being able to be proud of myself in my physical accomplishments, it was not something that was innate to me as a kid.
Were there times where you experienced incredible awe or wonder, or you saw some sort of piece of nature that just stopped you in your tracks?
Yes, I would say in some senses, I always kind of had that experience. Just the scenery and just the quiet and the vastness is just mind-blowing every time. But some of the best experiences I've had have really been when I've been surprised by kind of like some of the smaller beauties. One of the examples is a time when I brought a group of people hiking for their first winter hike. And we climbed one of the 4,000 footers that is totally below tree line. It's not a terribly long hike and pretty safe for new people to try out. And witnessing their wonder along the way was really one of the most memorable winter experiences I've had. It was everything from getting out of the car, and they'd had a packing list. They were really thoughtful about how they prepared, and most of them just had brought too many layers and too much stuff. And they were so skeptical about how warm they would be. And I was able to convince them, like, leave these things in the car, bring this. And they were so delighted 10 minutes into hiking to find that they were sweating and warm because they were worried about that. So that was really wonderful. This was an Outdoor Afro group. Outdoor Afro is a national organization that I volunteer with, specifically around connecting Black people in nature. So one of the most remarkable aspects of that hike was there was some moisture in the air. The Northeast is humid and it was cold out. It was in the teens or so. And these little icicles started forming on our hair. And the way that it formed on like black hair and dreadlocks and afros, two people had these big afros, was just so beautiful. And everyone was just so delighted with it and thought it was so cool. And it was really remarkable, especially because it was a cloudy day. There were no views. I was very disappointed on my drive up by myself, thinking, oh no, I really want this group to see beautiful views. And throughout this hike, they were just so in awe of all of the little experiences of, walking through the woods in winter and just the abundance of snow, the frosicles, as we called them, on our hair. They were just so enamored by all of that. It didn't even matter if there was a view. And so it was kind of one of those life lessons that, you might be surprised at how you can find little bits of joy. And so that felt really special.
In addition to becoming a record-setting adventurer, Mardi also works to encourage diversity and inclusion in outdoor spaces. Along with writing, consulting, and public speaking, she continues to lead trips with Outdoor Afro, an organization we featured on the show in 2022. Mardi's next wild idea is to expand her list from 48 to all 67 of New England's 4,000 footers in the wintertime. If you'd like to keep up with Mardi, you can follow her at Where Locks Fly Free. That's WHERELOCSFLYFREE. Wild Ideas Worth Living is part of the REI Podcast Network. It's hosted by me, Shelby Stanger, produced by Annie Fassler, Sylvia Thomas, and Sam Piers-Nitzberg of Puddle Creative. Our senior producer is Jenny Barber. Our executive producers are Paolo Motola and Joe Crosby. Thanks again to our partner, Capital One and the REI Co-op MasterCard. As always, we love it when you follow the show, take time to rate it, and write a review wherever you listen. And remember, some of the best adventures happen when you follow your wildest ideas.